Good afternoon, Decima.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, because some people say Decima and some people say Decima, and what do you prefer?
Well, it depends on which part of the world you're in. If you're in
Oh,
Spain, it's Decima, because it just
oh,
means 10th female. Decimal.
oh,
Yeah,
oh, okay. That's great. That's great. How are you?
I'm fine.
It's been some years now since, number one, since we met, and since we met up again
Mm-hmm.
until now. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to welcome you to the Forgotten Generations.
Okay.
And thank you so much for participating in this. And it's been, but I just can't believe that we met up again, really, because it's, well, when you separate from people in the past and we all go our different ways and then we come back together again. It's so great. So I'm going to ask you some questions as we go along. We'll just chat.
Okay.
The first question is going to be, where were you born, town and country?
Okay. Well, I was born in St. Kitts, West Indies, as it was in those days.
Right.
I always call it the slave colony, but there you go.
Well, there's a reason for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Because it is. But
Yeah,
it was the first British colony. So it's the mother of the Caribbean, actually.
and a lot of people don't know that. So
No,
yeah,
they don't know a lot of things, like the Constitution was also written there.
wow.
And Hamilton was a St. Kitts division.
My goodness.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of slaves sort of went through there and went on to other Caribbean islands.
Yeah.
That's the thing. A lot of people don't know these things. So,
well, it's not taught as British history, which it should be, because to miss out the Caribbean, to miss out America, to miss out Canada and Australia, it's all British history.
Absolutely.
But to miss us out is a disgrace, because that's where they got their wealth from.
Yeah. So that's where you were born, and you obviously, were you separated from mom and dad for any period of time?
Yes, my parents my father came first. I think I was 2. And then my mother came about 6-7 months later, maybe a year later. Wow. And then we met again when I was 7.
Oh.
I didn't know them. They were strangers to me.
Absolutely. So siblings then, there was yourself and your brother John.
Mm-hmm.
And
you want me to leave them in order?
Yeah, go on then.
John is the first.
Right.
I'm number 2. Then there's Vidal.
Yes.
Sonia, who's now called Ra-Marie. And Avril.
Oh, okay.
Avril's a baby. She's 61.
She's a baby.
Baby.
I like that. Very good. Yeah. So were you all born in the West Indies then?
No. The first three of us were me, John, and Vidal.
Okay. And mommy and daddy left you at different ages. So when did you join up with mommy and daddy again?
1961.
All of you? All 3 that were in the West Indies?
No, John came the year before.
Right.
So he came in 1960.
Okay.
And we came in 61, and Ra-Marie and Avril were born here. So when I came, my mother was pregnant.
Oh, right. Okay. So when you were left in the West Indies then, who were you left with? My
grandmother and about another 12 other children. They all left. So the grandchildren left behind. They went to America. They came here, dispersed.
Right. So how was that for you, that experience when you were left behind? What was it like being away from mommy, and how was it with your grandparents and the other kids?
It was fun. It was fun. What was it like? It was noticeable because some, not all, because a lot of people left around about that time, but some people still had their parents with them, and that was noticeable. And I remember I have an incident when I was standing in the playground and I was looking at this new girl who had come along to the village and joined the school. She had the best dimples ever. I remember spending my time trying to get dimples. Being really, it wasn't jealousy, it was an acknowledgement of she had her parents, because her parents brought her to the school.
Right.
Oh, I don't have that. But it didn't
Right.
matter, because my grandmother was like the queen of the village. Do you know what I mean? So she looked
Oh.
after everybody. She looked after kids who didn't go to school. She fed them. She looked after the whole community. She was great.
So that is really good. But I guess you still missed your mother, because I guess you didn't miss your mother.
No, I didn't know
Oh,
her.
oh, I see. So,
Miss
yes,
what you
because
don't know.
all right, because your mother left when you were 2 and a bit. Is that right?
I may not have been quite 2, because Vidal, who's a year and a week younger than me, was in a crib. And how I remember it is because I did I can't remember what it's called, but this thing, I was in Boston and I saw the Church of Scientology, and I'm curious about everything. And I went in and they said, oh, we're going to do this for you. You just talk about an incident that you think is important. I thought, me, never. And then I thought of something stupid, and they just kept asking you the question. And as you asked the question, they said, and what can you see around you? And then you started seeing what was around you and what was, and oh, there was somebody in the corner. What did they say? And what I found was, I remembered the whole incident of my father leaving. Everybody who was in the room, what the table looked like, what was said. And I did it for about 12 hours, which I didn't realize. So I started at about 8 in the morning, and by 8 in the evening, we'd been in the same room asking the question, and I 360 degree of them, and I was under 3. And I remember Vidal being in the cot. I remember my grandmother and everybody coming and praying and sending them off. And then I went home and I thought, ooh, let me ask my dad, because I remember there was a grip.
Yes, yes.
And the Bible was open and so on. So I rang him up and I said, when you came, did you have a brown grip with a silver handle? And did you have this kind of coat? And did they say you were going to fly? And my mother was crying because she didn't really want you to go, and all these people were there and blah, blah, blah. And he said, how do you remember that?
Oh my God.
And I suddenly realized, because I'm an actor, as you know, that your memory is intact, because your brain is a bit like a computer. So you don't forget anything, you forget nothing. But your emotions and whatever happens only allows you to see a bit. So this whole concept of going back and having a proper look, it all started to make sense.
My goodness. And when did you say you did that? In Boston? Was that?
I did it in Boston in the 80s.
Boston, as in USA?
Boston, Massachusetts.
Wow.
I lived there for 8.5 years, you know.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this is...
I lived in Turkey 3.5 years.
Ah, this is... Well, this is a revelation. Oh my goodness. I'll talk about your acting. We'll come on to that in a bit as well. Oh my goodness. So you came to England and you joined up with mommy and daddy, and they were strangers.
Yeah, I liked my dad.
Sorry?
I liked my dad instantly.
Oh, really? Did you?
Yeah, little Buddha. He just had kindness written all over him, my dad. Patience and kindness.
Oh my goodness.
If he was like anything, I would say he was like a Buddha. My dad was a peaceful man.
Oh my goodness.
I loved my dad.
So you talk about him as in the past? Is he not?
Yeah, he died. They both died.
Okay. Sorry to
my
hear.
mum died 2020.
Okay, sorry?
My mother died in 2020. My father died 9 years ago.
Okay. So how was it when you met up with mommy again? Because you straight away you spoke of fondly of your dad. What was it, that reunion like when you met up?
I think it's like a lot of people who came up. Not everybody had great relationships with their parents.
Yes, I know.
And with mums, mums and mums, and dads and dads.
Yes.
So she was pregnant. She brought us all up. And I don't know, maybe guilt or whatever feelings they had, I don't know. But I remember looking at her and just thinking, this is your mum.
Is that what you thought?
I'm going to survive you.
Age 7.
Yeah. Don't forget, you carry the same genes, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody carries the same genes. So you know what you're like. You know what your parents are like because you're actually a better version of your parents.
Yeah.
So I remember looking and, you know, my mum was good looking. You remember her?
Yeah.
And elegant and stylish and super ambitious and accomplished everything. She had a dream. Yeah. And and my dad adored her.
Okay.
So had it all. My mother had it all. I remember looking and thinking, he's not going to be, you know, she drilled us like we were in the army, don't you?
Well, I didn't know quite that. I didn't.
My mother wasn't playing. My mother came to England and first thing she did was got elocution lessons.
Really?
Did not play. My mother did not play. Success at all costs, mate. if I could write a book to a film, she would outdo Betty Davis.
Really?
We were her audience. She was dramatic. She was beautiful. She was ambitious. She was clever. She got the system. Listen, my mother was a powerhouse, and I was 7 and didn't know, and I just thought, I'm going to survive you.
Well, you never know. Maybe you should one day sit down and be. I don't know whatever you had in the past where they sort of picked your brains and you actually came up with everything. You should sit down and probably write about your mom.
I have to write it.
Yes.
Because her life was epic. But her mother's life was epic as well.
Oh my goodness.
Because her mother was a spitter. And so today she'd be a spitter in the Caribbean. Spitters. They were like rappers.
Oh.
And she was very famous. Yeah, and she was a dancer. She could dance. Anyway, she had 11 children and from some of the most handsome men in the island. Tell you, handsome men. I picked that up from her. I like handsome men. So yeah, and to go around and win all these competitions. Well, eventually, her sister was a pastor. So her sister came back with the Church of God of Prophecy. And then my uncles, who were teenagers, built the church. So we had our own church in the village.
Oh my
God. That's what I'm telling you. So she became a Christian. So her sister converted her.
Oh, really?
And half the country became Christians because they said, you can be a Christian, so can they. We have lives, I'm telling you. We have super lives. They're not in books, they're not documented, and we don't make films. All of that has to change. It's just writing it all down for the next generation.
Yes.
Generation we didn't have the time in our minds and in our brains to deal with all of that. My parents' generation had it a bit better than us because they were fed on organic food.
Really?
Of course, the whole of the Caribbean is sulfur.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the cleanser of the world. It's organic. Yes. And then you have this beautiful fresh food.
Yes.
Fresh fish, fresh vegetables, fresh everything. Yes. So they were lovely and strong. And then they lived in a community of themselves. So nobody knew about black. You know.
And I get that.
I don't even remember in St. Kitts there being a caste system. But if there was, my mum fitted in the middle. Because remember, my mum wasn't that dark. So she fitted in the middle.
Oh, right.
So she was beautiful, she was brown, and she was ambitious, she was funny, so she lived a great life.
I have my last memory of her was when we met up again in some years back, probably about 6 years back, down in Birmingham City there.
In the 80s.
Yes, that's my last memory of her. Wow. That's amazing. You've got to find a way of telling a story, to be honest.
I have to tell the story, but it's not just me. It's like there are so many amazing stories. I mean, truly amazing stuff. So, you know, my parents made money, yeah, with the nursing homes and stuff. And my dad was telling me,
No, sorry. No, I don't know.
oh, my mother built one of the largest nursing homes, built it from scratch in Birmingham, 64 beds. It's now a new neurological place. Yeah. They made money. They lived the life. And my dad always supported my mother. And I remember the other black men of his generation used to think he was silly, stupid. You know what I mean?
Because he supported the mother rather than being the...
He knew my mother had it, and he just sat in there, looked after us. Because, you know, he's an academic, really. I told you he's a Buddha. Academic wise, he was great. Nurturing, my mother is like, yeah. My mother didn't have much of the nurturing. She was a business person. But my dad had it all. So it was a great balance. I actually think children brought up with their dads are more adventurous, more outgoing, braver.
Wow.
So just get up and go. My dad, we'd be out in the garden playing in our yard clothes, you know, like decent clothes, yard clothes, because we was old school. And my dad would come from work on a Saturday afternoon. He worked at Rovers, and he'd go, everybody in the car. And then he'd take us to some manor house with our dirty clothes. and we would go, oh. And he'd say, don't be stupid. I'm educating your brain. Who cares what you look like?
Whereas your mother, your mother would be quite the opposite, right?
My mother had 3, 4, 5 jobs.
No.
I tell you, my mother came and they made her an SEN. And this is a story that my uncle told me. And and she wanted to be an SRN, state enrolled nurse. So she said, so she went to the matron and said, I want to become an SRN. And the matron said no, because of course in those days they didn't have black girls. No, you can't. I'm not going to swear, but equivalent.
Yeah. Purely under the color of the skin, right? I know that. The story is
no. She said, she listened to all the argument, and then she said, if I can shovel as an SEN, I can shovel it as an SRN. Okay. And then they still said no. So she said, fine. And then she enrolled herself in another hospital and went in Wolverhampton. So she used to travel from Birmingham to Wolverhampton back in those days by bus. She had 5 kids. When I tell you my mother's ambitious and determined and
amazing. Do you know, I asked a question like that to everybody, but I didn't expect you to expand on that to that degree, which is just fantastic.
Why not? We should. We don't like to tell the truth. In one of my acting roles, I played a play called Black Man's Burden, which is about a girl who comes from Jamaica,
right?
And she's pregnant by the local vicar, pastor, and she gets here, and she's brought to this family, and the mother has remarried, and they have their little English children. And it's a bit like that for almost everybody, because if you arrived and they were the English children, you came with your accent and your patois and your ways, and you broke their mold of being British. Does that make sense?
Yes.
A lot of the boys had real problems, which nobody talks about, in the fact that the boys came big, sturdy, and strong. Which was a challenge, as in the male hierarchy system. For the men. So a lot of boys were actually technically homeless, and they sofa surfed. Sofa surfed. You know sofa surfing, where you stay at your friend's house.
Oh yes.
Another friend called sofa surfing.
Right.
So it happened to a huge number of boys. Technically, they weren't kicked out of the house, but they were.
I understand.
And so I did this play where this girl came. She got pregnant. She didn't fit in. She was she lost her mind a little bit, and then the social services came in and all that. It was written by two social workers, Jeremy Seabrook and I can't remember the other one. Lovely play. So it was done at Riverside, and the director, Peter Gill, who's quite famous, said to me, Decima, he said, we put you up for an award which you should have got. He said, but they're not going to give it to you because they don't want Britain to look in a bad light.
They don't want Britain to look in a bad light.
No, because the play was so powerful. It was about what was going on, and it was how the social system was setting up was failing us, how the education system was failing us, what was happening with children as they came in from the Caribbean. Because they first of all, when the men came, it was all right. They didn't want the women to come. They didn't want the women to come. They only brought the women over because the white women liked the black men, and they weren't going to have it. And I think there was thought, nobody will clarify it, but I must do a bit of researching, where they actually thought about how they could stop the women having children. These were things that were being thought about at that time. Nobody wants to talk about it. We need to research. We haven't got to the point where we're comfortable and well enough. Mental health for us is an issue that we don't think about. The church, in effect, that's how we met.
Yes.
New Testament Church of God, New Testament Church of God, Jehovah's Witness, prophecy, all of those things were what kept us sane.
Okay, now that's an important link.
True. The amount of racism that those young, remember they were young. You had people who lied about their age, so they would be 14, 15 coming up and saying they were 20 because we're big, and then up to about 40. So you had these young, the average age would have been about 20, 21. These were kids who had kids and had come here and experienced racism. I had no idea about race. Listen, I didn't even know I was black until I came to England.
And I understand that. I understand that because I, like yourself, lived in an area where you didn't see white people, right? And the first time I saw one was when I went to Kingston, in this case in Jamaica. Yep. And I'm thinking, wow, but that was just on one occasion. So if you live like you lived in a place where and then you come here and you get exposed.
Yeah, well, we saw them. It wasn't an issue because my grandfather was mixed on both sides.
Okay.
So we're very mixed. St. Kitts is mixed. So about 1700, they brought 10,000 Indians from India. And
yes.
Mixed in.
Yes.
But there were paler people and there were white people. It's a small island. You get around it in about an hour and a half, going 20 miles. Come on, 60 square miles.
Honestly, we're talking about some of the things here, right? But yes, I have to say, I have to come in here.
They were never. It was never an issue. It was never an issue. It's still not really an issue on that island. Nobody cares. Oh yeah, you're white, fine. Just behave yourself. If you don't behave yourself, we don't want you on our island. We don't. Right. Whether you're white, black, green, or da-da-da. And the rappers, if they come and do their stupid rubbish, they used to get put in prison. And I love that. Don't come and bring your crap.
Right.
Keep
right.
It
and I have to say,
rappers what they were saying.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say that I managed to go to St. Kitts for the first and only time about 4 years ago. And I traveled not the rest, but I went to Barbados and a few others. And I love St. Kitts, and I'm not just saying it because you're from St. Kitts. It was brilliant.
Have you seen us fight?
Fight.
This is how Kittitians fight. That was my memory anyway. They draw a line. They stand on either side of the line, and you come over here and see.
Yes.
You come.
I've seen the same thing. I'm saying, oh, you've done it. Well, I've seen that. We did that as well back in.
Yeah. How can you fight your family? It's like there's about 12 major families on the island. How can you fight your second cousins? It's like, come on.
So let me just say this then. So you came here at 7, obviously going to school in the Caribbean, in St. Kitts. When you came here, you went to school, obviously. What was that first experience like?
I was insulted. You see, I cried to go to school because my brother went to school. So I went to school at 3. My brother John is 18 months older than me. So he went to school, came back and started reading and writing and drawing and all. And I was having none of that. See, I'm like my mother. I created havoc until I got into that school. And as soon as I learned to drive, I carved my name in the window. Yeah,
Wow.
anyway. So yeah, I came to school. Oh, they put me in a playpen. I was 7. I used to hang with the 11-year-olds in school because I was bright like my mum and my dad. And they put me in this classroom which they had a sandpit, and put me in a sandpit to play with toys I never liked. The only toys I liked anyway that they used to send was the motorbikes, you know, those fantastic moldy motorbikes.
All right.
Dollies, white dollies, man, I could dig a hole and bury them. Who's in charge? All of that. What? Send me those things. They don't look like me. What do I want to play with that for? And I love books, so I was always into the books. So I went to school, and I didn't really talk to anybody much for a long time because I was so angry.
Yeah.
How dare they? And I thought the children here were dumb.
Yeah.
I'm being very, very honest with you, because
That's why I asked the question, though.
we don't get to hear that. We don't talk because nobody asked us. They were the dumbest people children I'd ever met. And I thought the teachers were dumb because they didn't know. So they would ask about a flower or something else, and I would say what it was in the Caribbean, which is a different variety. And it didn't happen. It wasn't true. You're lying. And I was like, wow, you don't know. And you're trying to teach me, you know what I mean? so no, I didn't have, I wasn't impressed, but I had a clever headmistress. I was blessed with clever headmistresses.
Right.
First
Was
of
it
all,
an all-girls school? Or
no,
was it...
no, I'm talking about primary, junior.
All right. Okay. Okay.
So that was in Ladypool Road, right here in Birmingham.
Okay. And
she got it somehow. And one day she called me into her office and like, you won't talk. And she said, can you read? And I said, of course I can read. So she gave me a book, a boring book. Then she gave me another book, and she took me to the library, looked at the books, so I can read those, gave me the newspaper, I think it was a Guardian or something like that. I read that. She said, what are they saying? I told her what they said. She then took me out of school to the library, and then we went through different parts of the library. And she said, you could read and understand this. And I said, yeah. And then I went home, and my mum took the Guardian, the newspaper, because my dad was really used to read. And he used to get the Guardian and the Times, and she made me read it. And then she said, do you understand it? Tell me what it said. And I did it. And she went, oh. So that was the beginning of it.
So you were still age 7 at the time?
Yes, 7. I was coming up 8.
Yeah, okay.
But I didn't, I just lost interest. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I realized they were dumb.
Yeah.
And they weren't really interested, and the teachers didn't know nothing. I wasn't that interested. I read. I did what I had to. I lost interest in the whole education system. You went through it, and I decided I'd retire when I got 16 because it was compulsory to go to school. But once I finished, that was it. Then I went to a really nice. Then we moved to Handsworth, and we went to Bolton Road. Headmaster there. Oh. I remember the first time he had a beautiful fireplace in his office, and so my mother went. She had to go to work and did nursing, and then we sat in his office, and he turned to me and he said, "Your mother is so handsome." And I looked at him and I said, "My mother's not handsome. Men are handsome."
Is that what you said?
Yes, men are handsome. Women are beautiful. You can't call my mother handsome. I was so vexed. Handsome? What is she? A man? So that was it's things like that I fought with all the time. So that we were a problematic set of children because we were like our mum, and she had no boundaries. She didn't see doors and blocking barriers, and that's how she brought us up.
Right.
So when the teachers were insulting and rude as they were in those days, they were little racists.
Yeah.
Well, me, I would tell you straight. I will tell you, don't talk to me like that. I don't know who you are. I don't care. I used to tell them they were dumb. And so they put me outside to stand outside the school door, you know, as they used to do. And then
Yeah, I know it well.
You have to apologize. I ain't apologizing. The only person I have to apologize to is God Almighty. Not
Wow.
even the Queen of England can make me bend a knee if I don't want to.
Did you go to the same school as John?
John, no, John was older, and we went to Bolton Road. Did he get to Bolton Road? No, by the time we moved to Handsworth, he went to his boys' school.
Okay.
He went to boys' school.
Yeah.
I wanted
Wow.
to, yeah. So that was it. But that head teacher turned out to be the head of the National Front. He died,
No.
I'm not lying. He died about 10, 15 years ago or something. Mr.
The
Davis,
teacher.
the head teacher, Mr. Davis, was the head of the National Front in Birmingham, West Midlands, probably. When he died, it all came out. I was like, that's why I didn't like you. That's why you used to do the things. That's why you'd say my mum was handsome. That's why you made sure that we wouldn't go to grammar school.
That's amazing.
He had a thing of making sure. I don't know whether he wrote letters or whatever he did, but he was naughty, because my mother, RGP, became my mother's best friend. She thought my mother was amazing, and she was Cadbury's.
Cadbury's.
So she's Molly Sparrow, and she was Cadbury's, and her husband, although she divorced at that time, was a mayor of Birmingham.
Wow.
So she took my mother. She just saw the ambition and the
yes.
Took those two got on like a house on fire. So she used to mentor us. So we used to go and play croquet on her lawn, and at the bottom, in Moseley, in the bottom of her garden had a lake. So we'd open the gate and we'd get on the boat, and she'd take us everywhere. Everywhere, theatre, you name it, garden fetes, blah, blah, blah. So we got the full experience of what it was like to be quite wealthy in Britain.
Amazing.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And at the same time, we were having the full-on Caribbean experience. And then we had church.
Yes.
Makes sense. And the beauty of, we're coming back to why church was so important. And I cry for the young people. I cry for them. Because the parents could be a cleaner, they could be whatever they were, because we didn't have very good jobs, factory worker. But in church, you could be an elder, you could be the lead choir, you could be the pastor. You had position, you had power, you had influence. Even if you weren't a pastor or anything, you could be the best dressed, wear the best hat, be the best cook. You understand? There was
and the church is the center of the Caribbean universe, isn't it? It's just
but for the children, academically, it was excellent, because we were reading the Bible, the King James Bible, which Shakespeare is supposed to have translated Isaiah, which is, and I don't know why I loved Isaiah, but I do know now.
Right.
But it's the best language for poetry, for prose, for structure, for imagination, for vision, for history. It's so powerful. And children were allowed to get up and read, and claim and act and sing and be praised, and people prayed for you, and they put their hands on you and prayed for you, and you couldn't get past without getting either a pinch or a kiss or a hug or a something. And you were important.
I like that.
Because you were a child. You were nurtured. You didn't have to be brilliant. You just had to get up and have a go, and they loved you for it.
Yes. Do you know what? I love your description.
It was amazing.
I love your description of our church.
But it was true.
But it was true.
The youth workers, who got your band together then?
Yeah, right, no. Wait a minute. No.
Wasn't it people? Every time you did a song, people would give their week's wages. You forgot. The building program. People would give their week's money. £5 was their week's money.
Oh my God.
Remember, John used to go with the drums. I wanted £5.
So I am just gonna go. I just can't remember exactly when we met. I just know that we met, right?
We met in church.
I know. I'm talking about church, and I just can't remember like a year or a month or anything like that. We just met, right? And I just one occasion I remember. We used to have a well, I think we used to eat on the top of the church,
Mhm.
Sunday school and all that. And I was coming down the steps and you were ahead of me.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, you turned and said something to me. And I for some reason or another, I just recall. And I said, well, how old are you then? And you said 11. I'm thinking, she was a quite forwarding question you asked me. I can't remember what the question was, but I was just astonished that you were asking that particular question. You made a statement, you know? And for some reason, you know, when you say you can go back in life and you
Yeah.
remember a particular thing. I just remember us on the steps coming down.
Because I had a big crush on you, but you didn't know.
I think that's probably what it was.
Crush. You were my crush in that band that looked like the Beatles. And this is a picture of yourselves. You were gorgeous. You're all such pretty, suited, gorgeous. You know, and I remember, oh, I like him. He's going to be my hero. I didn't want George or what their name is, the Beatles ones. I wasn't interested in them. I like the Rolling Stones, but I wasn't interested in them. We had our own in church, and you lot were prettier.
Oh my God! You know,
better. You had harmonies. You had proper voices. But to me, the Beatles can't sing. David Bowie can't sing. To me, but when I hear black people, and you had Ivor and what? The singing, the music was brilliant.
It's amazing, the feedback, especially since I started doing this recording. I'm talking to people about the effects of that group that it had at the time, and people in the red jacket, and that's what the people used to say, in your red jacket and this and that and whatever. And it was like, wow.
Didn't you know you were all beautiful?
No, because you see, when you're part of the thing going forward, you know that there's some sort of influence there, but you don't know until people tell you.
No, you lot were beautiful. And you all had a different look. There was the Macintosh, is that his name?
Yeah, Charlie, yeah.
Charlie was mixed race looking and tall, and you know, and then you had Ivor, who was tall and broad shouldered, and he had his look. And then you had John, who pretty boy, and then they had you, which had this great, but you were all young and you were fit. And you had these 60s suits that made you look like, whoa. Whoa, you are no, listen, you don't know the amount of times I used to get beat for holding hands with Ivor and marching up the road with you.
Oh my God.
Those days. Me, no, man. No, I had to be in the middle of all it.
And you know, I've interviewed a few people who told me so many different aspects of what you're telling me there. Yeah, this one guy I interviewed, he said to me, I didn't want to lick you down, you know. I said, excuse me? He said, boy, I tried to talk to you, but all you do is ignore me and talk to the girls. I couldn't get a look in.
You lot couldn't forget the Beatles. Yeah. Don't you remember the concerts you used to do?
Yeah.
You were mega stars.
It was fantastic, and I've got to say, as I spoke to John, as you probably as I told you, and we've got to do an interview with John as well. And John is telling me things now that how it's, because I don't fully remember how we started this group, right? And he's telling me things that I don't even know. So he's going to tell me more, and we've got to record it. And it'd be great if all four of us could just do an interview and talk about things. It's fantastic.
But we were a great bunch of young people in that that generation. It was because it was the beginning.
Yes.
But and a lot of us had that Caribbean background. So we were fearless.
Yes, absolutely. And we would say it like it is, you know. Yeah. And the parents, and I spoke about this because you probably remember Phyllis and Cynthia. Yeah. We did an interview the other day, and that was absolutely marvelous as well, because everybody's got a different perspective on life. They were pastors' children, and they had a different. Oh my God!
There were a lot of them.
Yes.
This boy used to have those great, amazing plaits. Do you remember? Because the mother didn't want to cut her hair. Was it Stephen? He was called. He was like a baby. He was the baby.
Oh, right.
And he had this head of hair, and it was always plaited, and it was really long.
but it was so fantastic because you got these mothers and of course the fathers, and they were so strict in so many ways as West Indian parents, you know, and it was quite an experience for us. But I saw the church as a very good grounding place for me, and for others, like you were saying there. It was fantastic, you know, regardless. So yeah, super.
Autism now. Don't you think we had autism then? Don't you think all the issues that the young people have, you think they're brand new, they came out of it? No, we were taught to sit and listen for hours, hours and hours. We fasted. So we learned, oh yes, we learned to struggle. We had debating classes.
Do you know to sing? We had choir.
We had choir. We learned to cook with the women upstairs for the weddings, and it was a whole world in itself. And then we had to go out and do those open air things where you tried to hide from your school friends and stand on the corner, preach.
Yeah, handing out tracts and things. Yeah, I remember it. So what happened then at say 16? Is it like you left school and not? Is that 16 for you, or was it 17 or what? What happened then?
I left school at 17 and a half because we moved from Handsworth. We moved with the Birmingham overspill to Droitwich, and that was an experience on its own.
Oh yes, I remember that occasion.
There was one other family there with a daughter, also from St. Kitts, when we arrived. And then they moved to Canada. So we were the only Black family there.
Wow.
I know, we got spoiled. I mean, spoiled rotten. Because of the 3 buses a day from Birmingham, and everything else you had to drive. So you either walked or you drove, and everybody said, "Are you the Francis?" Off you go. So we were like famous, and we could run, and we could play netball, and we can do all these things, and we were bright, and we were funny, and we didn't care. We had parents who had. Listen, my mother doesn't queue. She doesn't understand the concept of queue. Why are you asking me, Mrs. Francis, as she used to call herself, Mrs. Francis? Francis. You're asking Mrs. Francis to queue. My mother, if she wanted something from the bank, like, you know, she wanted to build her first business, or all of you got, I want you to put on these suits, you put on that suit, you put on that suit, you put on that suit, you put on those shoes, and march us down behind her like ducks, put us all in the car, which was a Sunbeam Rapier, beautiful car, drive us there, and she'd throw open the bank door if it wasn't open, if it was sort of closed or whatever, and just say to the teller, "I'm telling him I'm coming in." She was one of those. And same thing when they're shopping. She just open the door to the butchers or whatever and just walk in and say what she wants. And people will just stand and look at her and do it. So enjoyed it. So that was an experience.
Yes.
So of course we had that kind of life, and of course we'd already been prepped by Miss Barrow Cadbury's, and so we weren't afraid of the wealth. Because a lot of the children in the school were farmers' children who used to get picked up.
Right.
So you're talking about hardy, strong, tall, white kids who are just down to earth because they're farmers. You know, they're down to earth. They ain't got time for foolishness. Yeah, kids. And we got on. So we had that kind of experience, had that kind of teenage. So, you know, I went to the pub, I did everything, went to the discos, but they didn't have discos like you'd have discos here. It was like they would hire the Malvern Hall, the Malvern Hotel, and quite proper. But also they used to fight. So there was a local Winter Gardens that used to get smashed every Saturday. Wow. And then they used to fight village to village. So today it would be Droitwich, then everybody shake hands when they finish demolishing the place. And then you'd make an appointment to go to Bromsgrove and you'd bash there after the disco, of course. You had to disco first. Then after that you'd have a fight. And then you'd make an appointment to go to the next one. And we used to walk from Droitwich to Malvern. You used to put and there'd be hundreds, 300 kids, 200 kids. You'd have your party clothes in your bag on your back and shoulder, and you'd have your walking shoes, and you used to walk. So that meant you walk from Droitwich through Worcester and on to Malvern.
Yes, the Malvern Heights.
And then you changed your clothes because you were in the most beautiful settings. We had beautiful settings, romantic.
Wow.
change into your gowns and your whatever, and then you party, and then you walk back, and then you do things like going ghost hunting in in all kinds of wonderful stuff. You know what I mean?
That was quite adventurous then, in other ways.
Yeah. Well, of course, you're alive.
Yeah.
You see,
Wow.
I'm into living life. You
Yes.
have to
Yeah.
live life to the fullest. You have
Yes.
to experience things. My mother taught me about not having boundaries, not being shaped by other people's idea of what the world is, or idea of what religion is, or anything, because we understand so little, and we're limited by who we're born into, the class we're born into, the area that you're born into, the IQ that you have, whatever. But you're here to experience the whole of creation, and you're here to learn about yourself and other people's, and not to judge them. Does that make sense? You're here to understand that whoever created, whatever created this amazing, I call it time capsule that way, because it is a time capsule.
It is.
Anybody before me, and I can't meet anybody coming in. So I'm restricted only to the people in my time period.
Yeah, it's not a rehearsal, is it? It's actually living.
And there's no rehearsal.
Talking about that then.
Don't limit yourself by judging people, because you can't walk in their shoes half the time.
How did you, have you always had an ambition to be an actor or not?
No.
And if so, how did you get into that?
My thing, if I'd had my way, I would have been what do you call it? The ones who cut up the bodies and find out why they died.
Yes.
It'll come to us. We're old.
Yes.
Pathologists.
That's it.
I had my way, I would, because I was quite good at the sciences. I would have been a pathologist, a surgeon, or a GP.
Okay.
My mother always wanted me to be a nurse. I didn't want to be a nurse.
Okay. So what did you want to be in terms of at that particular?
I think I would have liked to have been a pathologist.
Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't the time. That was the period when they used to send these beautiful young people out of university and teachers training college to tell Black kids don't go to university. They used to tell us, don't go to university, you won't enjoy it, it's not a place for you, blah, blah. And they didn't want us anyway. And we were miseducated. So, you know, the majority of people in the world are not educated at all. And I learned that because I went out with a very rich, I'm only beginning to find out how rich this person is now, stupidly rich.
Really?
And I remember after about 6 months, he just turned to me and he said, "You are just not educated."
Really?
Oh, yes. You are not educated. And I turned to him and I said, "That is not my fault, because I was educated here in your system." I loved it. Oh, we used to battle. He was so educated, though. Eton Oxbridge. You understand me? And you saw the difference, clear difference. I have two of Vidal's children went to boarding school. More would have gone, but they didn't want to. And you see the huge difference. They're properly educated, really beautifully educated.
Yeah.
And it's not about the academics.
Right.
Yeah, it's about how to conduct yourself, which is what religion is about.
Okay. I can see.
How to conduct yourself, your networking,
right,
your ability to fit in anywhere, your ability to truly understand the system in which you live, and to be at the top end of it, to have all the advantages. And it doesn't matter where they go, they get singled out. They walk into somewhere, and the way they walk, my mother had it, she taught it to us. People tell me all the time, you walk as if I went to America, caused problems, boy. Walking down the street in America, in Boston, I would be walking down the street minding my own business, and these white people would expect me to walk out into the road so they could pass. Well, you know.
No, you actually experienced that? You experienced that?
You know, I had a mother who wasn't easy. I used to knock them down. And the Black Americans were part of my troupe because I set up a theatre company there and I worked in education.
You did what?
Set up a theatre company and I worked in arts and education. Anyway, but that's
Wow.
I used to just knock them out of the way because it was like, you're a man, you should be moving out on the outside anyway. And I don't know, because I was in Britain. And the British didn't have, their racism is quite subtle.
Yes.
And so I didn't even see them.
I know what you mean.
And people used to get so upset. Eventually, I left America because the Black Americans got very angry. They got really angry because I didn't see doors or barriers. So I would ask for what I want, get what I want, do whatever I want, make changes at the top.
And that's because they're so institutionalized, right? From birth into that system.
It's their whole life experience. I remember they said to me, they started saying I was an American who went to Britain to study, which really upset me because I'm not. I'm from the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And with a British upbringing. And wanting me to join all these societies, which I didn't want to because I'm not my family. And I said to them, I'm going home. They said, why? We'll give you everything. I said, I don't want anything because eventually you'll forget I'm British and you'll start treating me like a Black American and I will end up committing murder.
Yeah.
Because I would not tolerate it. I remember I had a car and I had a policeman in my troop and he arranged all my financing and insurance around the car. And he gave me the license plate you have to renew each year, which I didn't know anything about. Yeah. And it had lapsed by a day and I got stopped in Boston. And the policeman was talking to me and he explained it to me and I said, well, I didn't know because another policeman did it for me, and because we don't have that in England, I didn't really know. He took me to court.
Oh yeah.
he took me to court for pretending to be British.
Pretending to be British? So he didn't believe that you were British?
No. At that time, and I was in the 80s, they didn't believe there was all these Black people here.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
Okay. But he thought I was impersonating somebody British so that I could get off. And the judge, I gave him my passport, just called him in and took him out. Another time, I had a Platinum American Express card because, I could do quite well. And I went, it was a holiday, and I'd run out of something because we were touring or whatever. And I went to the supermarket. I'd forgotten my passport in my car. And so I'd already given her the card. And she said, I need to have proof. I said, okay, let me go to my car and I'll collect it. She said, I'm not giving it back to you. I said, that's fine. I'll be back in a few minutes. Well, as I went to do it, somebody stopped me and I had to have a little conversation. Came back, they had cut up my American Express card.
No.
It's up, my friend. So I came in with my passport. This woman, her face drained. And she said, you can't have it back. I said, why can't I have it back? And I need my goods. She said, because I've cut it. I said, you cut up my American Express card. I said, are you mad? I said,
for why?
Get the manager out here. And the manager, well, you went. I said, I went to get my passport because she asked for proof.
Yes.
And it was in the car. So they had to call American Express and they had to sort it out and they had to give me everything that I wanted for free. and an apology. Oh, it caused a big stir because I lived in Jamaica Plain, which is where all the artists live. So it caused a huge stink.
Wow.
Yeah. At the racism is if you come from here for the first 2 years, you don't see it. You don't see it. When they become comfortable with you, and you're almost like one of them, then you start to see it. Like everybody takes off the mask, and then you see American.
It's amazing what you're saying there, because in my travels, we went to Las Vegas with the Royal Air Force, and we were there for about 7 weeks. And we were sat in a bar in, just off the strip. And of course, they hear your accent.
Mm-hmm.
Where you guys from? And blah, blah, blah. Australia or whatever, And it shows the limited education, because they very limited.
No,
anyway,
they don't travel. They don't have passports.
Yeah, right. So I'm sat there, and then we, we're just at the bar, and the guy said, "What you guys doing here?" And we said, "Well, we're with the Royal Air Force, and blah 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 blah." And he looked at me, and he looked at all the others, and he looked at me again, and he goes, "A black man in the Royal Air Force?" The mentality with black and royal just did not fit. So the limited education, and also, so what you're talking about, your experience of them saying you can't be British because you're black or whatever, I understand it. They're so limited in their thinking, a lot of them, absolutely amazing.
You see, you can go right to the top, because so when I arrived in Boston, I was doing Shakespeare. I went to a company called Shakespeare and Company, English, very famous, lovely. And so we were out in New England, in the most beautiful place. She had a house that was one of the writers, which the names have gone for me at the moment.
Yeah.
But she used to do Shakespeare, so she was a specialist at it. And I met her because I was at the National. So I was an in-house director at the National Theatre. And that's how we met. And then she asked me to come out and do some workshops. Then she offered me this role because at the time Massachusetts had dropped in the league tables for English and reading and stuff, because they had been, they were naughty with laundering money. And a lot of people had left Massachusetts. So there was an issue. And so she said, "Would you come and do it and work with the Black community?" I said, "Well, try and get somebody from America to do it," but nobody wanted to do it. I said, they don't really want to work with their own community in that way. Most people, they want to make money. So I went out to do it, and I set up this Shakespeare company. We started with the schools, then we did the colleges, universities. So we did MIT, we did programs for Harvard, we did.
Fantastic.
So I had the play of the thing. So the first time I landed, she said, "Go to Boston." I went to Boston and said, "Go and meet this guy from a bank." It was a family bank at that time, doesn't exist anymore. So he took me into his office, and then he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to do this, 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 this." And he said, "Okay, I want you to go to Roxbury, go to the community college," which was new. It's only been 4 years. And go and talk to them. So I went and I spoke to the head of it, and we're sitting there and we're chatting, and I'm selling. I'm properly selling. And I talked to this woman for about an hour. I have to convince this woman that she has to help me. And she said, "Okay, have you finished?" I said, "Yeah, well, I can't think of anything else I can tell you." She said, "Okay, can you go to the back of the wall on my thing there?" She said, "And look at the map." And so I went and I looked at the map, and she said, "Can you see your name?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "That's your office." So I got an office in the middle of a brand new thing. I had access to every single student. The Boston Globe took us on and funded us into all the schools. And the bank funded everything else. Listen, I lived the life of Riley.
Oh my God.
That was set up. Listen, I had the best time in America. I will not lie. I worked with the Massachusetts Council. We did all kinds of amazing things. Yeah.
So, I have to go back to that question as to how you got into acting.
How did I get into
Why?
acting? My first job, they wanted to train me up as a manager for Littlewoods, because I'd left home and I went to stay with my friend in Worcester. And
what age was this? Sorry.
17 and a bit.
Okay.
17 and a half. So I did some A levels. I did agriculture and biology and all that kind of stuff. So then I went there. And I walked into Littlewoods. I said, "I need a job." And they said, "Okay." But I spoke quite well. I was well presented. Like my mother, carried myself well. And then, "Would you like to become a manager?" Cool, all right. But because I love the sciences, I was still looking for a job. And then at the Worcester Teachers Training College, as it was then, they needed a laboratory technician. So I applied and I went and I became a laboratory technician for the biology department. And then there I met the other biologist lab person, Melanie. Still remember her name, Melanie. She belonged to the youth theatre. So she said to me, would you like to come and see one of my plays? I said, fine. You know, Black people, we don't think about those kind of work jobs because we're told really. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, whatever, you know.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking you how you got into that.
So I went along, and she did a musical. She was fabulous, and I met the head of the youth theatre, and we got on really well. He said, "Do you want to join?" I said, "Fine." So he gave me a lead in a play called The National Health, and then we took off from there. So you don't have to teach me about acting. I have a mother, as I told you, who could act, Betty Davis. Okay. And we were her audience. And any trick she knew about lighting, how to turn her head. And listen, she had it down. Okay.
Wow.
So we were good. And then I got my sister and everybody roped into it. And it was the theatre is in the race course. So it's actually in the race course itself on the side. Okay. So we got to see all the race goods. Yeah. Anyway, so we did that. And then I thought, you know what, this is a lot of fun. So I then decided to go to Kidderminster College and learn theatre design, theatre history, jazz, dance, all those kind of things for a year. And then decided I'll go to drama school. Because when I was 14, when I was still in Birmingham, I went to Portland Road School. And the head teacher and the teachers there were very artistic and very clever and adventurous and amazing school. We did wonderful things in the arts. Like we had our own choir, we had our own magical choir, we had towards the summer when it was exam time, the rest of the school was taken out to do things. So we did things like mountain climbing, making films,
great
stuff, while those who were coming up to their exams had a quiet school. And then they had their master classes, and then we could also have master classes. So if you wanted to do science, instead of going rock climbing, you could do three weeks of science, 3 weeks of biology. She was extraordinary. We did records, we did an opera with another school. Astonishing. So we had one boy who was a very talented actor. So the deputy head wrote a play for him, a Greek tragedy. He wrote it for him and then invited RADA to come, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. So came to the school, and I had the second lead. Yeah, I had the second lead. So, so we did the play, and he was given a scholarship, and they said they would give me I was 14, so they would give me a scholarship if I wanted to do it when I was older. So that was always there, and I was quite good at it. And then you know, we sang in church and we had all that dramatic experience.
Yeah. So
then I went and I thought, oh, let me go to RADA. I'll start my teacher, because I thought about teaching as well. And then my lecturer at the college said to me, "You're really quite a good actress. You're a bit extraordinary, so you should think about it." So he gave me all the lists of drama schools, and he said he would help me to get a grant. So if I got in, so I went along. I went to RADA first. I got soaked from Droitwich to London, and I sat waiting for this audition drenched.
So why did you get soaked? From Droitwich to London?
It rained. It was really a rainy day.
So what was your mode of transport?
I went by train, but it's a long journey to London from Droitwich.
I see. Yeah.
So I got wet when I started off.
Right.
I got wet when I came out. I got drenched in London because I didn't have an umbrella.
Okay.
And when I started out, it wasn't raining.
Yeah. Okay.
Wet. So I was literally dripping. I had my best suit on and I was dripping. They let me sit outside dripping. There was pools of water everywhere. They made me go water. Nobody offered me a towel, a cup of tea. I was starving. And when I finished, I thought, I don't care if you give me 10,000 scholarships, I'm not coming here. You don't know how to look after people.
Right.
So, and then I thought, wow, and they sent the students to talk, and they were all, you know, white and middle class, and they didn't seem particularly friendly. And I just thought, do you really want to be in this? Let's go and find a place that's provoking, challenging, diverse.
Mm.
I want to experience people from different parts of the world and see how they act and whatever have you. And I went and I found this place called Mount View. And I went along and I told you, I like handsome, pretty men, especially to me, they're walking pieces of art. And I walked in, there was this gorgeous administrator, Welsh guy, beautiful coloring, beautiful. And I thought, oh, I'll go to that school. He's nice. So I got in, and there was only 2 people to get scholarships that year. So it was me and somebody else. So I got the scholarship. So I went. And that's how I got into acting. On my first day, I was a black girl and there was a black boy. And then we had South Africans, we had Greek, we had Canadians, we had the world. The world was there. It was fabulous. They didn't have a lot of money. It was in a house with an extension thing. But my dance and voice, whatever name teacher, her friend was David Bowie.
All right.
And Alan Bates lived down the road, and everybody used it because it had 2 theatres. So it was the best choice ever for theatre and everything. They were amazing. So, but at the end of the year, I left because the head of the youth theatre at Worcester had taken over as the artistic director in Hornchurch. And I was in contact with him, and he said, well, I'm taking over Hornchurch, which is like a brand new theatre and that massive at the time. So let me know if you want anything. And I had a falling out with the drama school because when you do your final assessment, you do a play and they talk about it. And when I'd done the play, the actress that I was working with lost her memory. She couldn't remember where she was. She just went blank. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It was a period piece and she went blank. And I looked at her and she was just terrified. And then I waited as long as I thought was reasonable. And then I took her line, swapped it round, added my line and gave it, and then she snapped back into it.
Wow.
I went for this interview. They're telling me, how could I do this to this actress? And I overstepped her and I did this and I did that. And I remember looking at it and it came just like when I first came to England. You lot don't know nothing, do you? You really didn't see. You're supposed to be my tutors and you really didn't see what was going on. I didn't bother to argue with them. I just listened to their rubbish and I thought, well, when she comes in, she can tell them. And I thought, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
I'm done with you. That's me. When I'm done with you, I finish.
Yeah.
I went home and I said, that was it. Called my friend from Hornchurch. I said, I'm leaving last term. I'm out of here. I need a job. I'm black. I need an equity card because I have to tour for 42 weeks to be able to work, to earn your equity card. And I'm not staying here with this crap. He said, I'm doing a musical. Stop the World. I want to go on. Do you want to be there? I said, fine. And I was there. That was it. Equity card went off. And that's how I got into acting. But I always liked Shakespeare because it's that beautiful, ancient, epic, classical language that we learned as kids in the church.
Yes.
But also our parents were better educated than the people here.
Yes.
They knew poetry and they knew the poets and the classics. And they were, it's only now you look back and you think, oh my God. Oh, we weren't below the working class at all.
No, not at all.
We were educated. They just didn't know.
I know. And I learned that when I first came here, that I was ahead of
years.
Yes. You know.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So anyway, so that's how I got into acting. So then I then got into the Black Timber Theatre Company. I worked with them first and I worked with other people and then just build my way. And then, but when I went to drama school, they said to me, you're not going to get the parts. The parts are not there for you. So if you want to seriously act, you're going to have to start your own theatre company. So anyway, so I started my...
So sorry, what? You're not going to get the parts. The parts not there for you because of what?
There's no black parts.
Right.
They said if you want to be an entertainer and you want to sing and you want to do all those things, yeah, you'll go along. But if you want to be a serious actress, there's not the parts. And they were absolutely right. There weren't the parts. Parts were not there. So you'd have to create your own. And eventually I did. But I was lucky because I hooked up with Peter Gill. Oh, I went on a tour, world tour with Bonnie Tyler for a year. So that experience was just fabulous. I mean, red carpet everywhere, red carpet coming off the plane, red carpet going in the plane, closed down shops and supermalls while the models came and modeled your clothes. You can have anything you want. Got to Japan, went into Yamaha, and they said, pick whatever you want. It was great.
Another world.
And I've stayed in the most beautiful hotels in the world.
You've lived, girl. You've lived.
Lived. I got chased around the world by all these rich people. I was a girl,
God.
I got chased around the world by all these rich people. One Japanese man. Oh my God! If I knew what I knew now, I would be so rich. People kept offering me so much money, but I was a godly child, you know.
Yes.
Is the root of all evil. They need to stop that rubbish. You need your money. I so wanted to be Jesus. I wouldn't have any of it. I turned down money, you name it. What a
really?
Yeah, really. I wanted to be Jesus.
Listen,
from a child, I wanted to do miracles. I wanted to walk on water. I believed it. I still do. You can, but you have to really.
Yeah.
You understand me? And I want, you know, and I don't know where I got into this thing that to be really a religious, spiritual, miracle working person, you have to be poor. I don't know how I got that into my head, but that was really at the root of it. And also my mother made money and I didn't like what it did. I didn't like what you had to do to maintain it. It's not that she did it wrong, but it's an attitude around money that I kept, none of us, unfortunately, of her kids. So we were a real disappointment. We didn't develop that. I told you my dad was like a Buddha.
Yeah.
So we gravitated to that way of being.
Right.
And I was talking to my brothers and sisters and I said, we self-sabotage. We self-sabotage ourselves whenever it comes to big money. And if we get money, we get rid of it really, really fast.
Oh, that's interesting. Let me just pick up on something there, because in your acting world, I think we talked about in the past, there were TV roles that were going on. And I think you said you were part of some of these famous TV roles. Is that correct?
I just had some little parts at that time in Bergerac and Shoestring and It Takes a Worried Man and those kind of things. I did do. I was a pretty girl, but there wasn't any major parts.
What do you mean was? What do you mean was?
I was a pretty girl. I'm not a girl anymore.
I like
yeah. So yeah.
All right.
So when I started my theatre company, then I started working with young people.
Okay.
I started working with young people because I was young, they were young, but there weren't any roles, and so we had to create roles. Yeah, we had to take roles and put them on. So we started a company called SAS. It was, and then
sorry, where was this? Where did you start this?
In Southwark, in London, in Southwark.
Oh, okay.
Peckham, Camberwell, that kind of area.
Right.
And I worked with the young people, and I met Larrington Walker, who's dead now, who was also working with young people, and so we sort of teamed up in a way. But I met Peter Gill through the play's umbrella, and we stayed friends. And at that time, he had a troupe of about 25 actors, men, who are all the top actors in the world now. They're just everything.
Wow.
But they were young, and I was able to spend time watching them grow. Ian McKellen, it's all of that group.
Really?
Yes, and I watched them for about 10 years. And I used to go and be in the lighting booth with Peter looking at the work and why is that working? That's not working, blah, 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 blah. So I had some serious, wonderful people who helped me. Well, Peter moved from Riverside and he got an OB, I think, and then he was a writer as well. And he went to the National, and he took over the National, he created the National Studio. And the studio did all the progressive work, all the new writers. So, you know, you had a theatre space, you had offices, you had the painting, you had a writing things, and he'd get all the new and upcoming peoples in the arts to come and work there. And
wow.
we used to get it. He got money from John Sainsbury's and said to me, come in the summer. So for about 3 summers, I had the studio, and then I'd collect all the kids. So we were Peckham and Camberwell, whole of Southwark, Brixton, Croydon. So it was Trevor Etienne, Gary McDonald, Wilbert Johnson, and a whole group. And we did a Black Macbeth. It only had one showing. And at the time, I think it was Oxford or Cambridge, one of them, they were looking at who spoke Shakespeare best, and so they were looking at it across the country and across the world. Well, there's a little island of Massachusetts who still speak in that Shakespearean way, and then the next group of people is us in the Caribbean, because the British stopped going there around the 17 something. They stopped going, so the language stopped.
Right. Yes.
So we still use things like vexed and
yeah, which is more Shakespearean than now. Yes. Okay.
Society is set up far more so along those lines than the current day. Yeah. And then you have church on top of it. So our backgrounds are correct for Shakespeare. So when Black people in a Caribbean accent speak Shakespeare, condition and all of that, the sound of it. So we did it. And I remember the professors coming and saying, but I thought you said you were going to do it in dialect. And people said, we thought you were going to do it in dialect. Yeah, we did. But it sits beautifully. It sits beautifully.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
And you talk about honours.
Honours.
MBE.
Yeah, well, first of all, in 1981, I got Woman of the Year.
Oh.
And that's the time when Princess Di was around. I
loved her. I have to admit.
You have no idea how beautiful she was. Listen, it's wealth. It's the skin, because their skin. It's her and Charles. Charles is actually a pretty man. I don't know what the camera does to him. The camera makes him look terrible, but in real life, he's not like that at all. He's quite pretty.
Okay.
Thatcher was a beauty. Oh my God. I saw her in real life a couple of times.
Who's that?
Margaret Thatcher.
Okay.
Thatcher was superstar beautiful.
Right. Okay.
In real life. She used to hold herself stupid and, you know, put on that silly voice. But she was beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful peaches and cream skin. Because they're so well looked after. They're so good. It's beautiful. And that's, she was tall, she was elegant, she was so shy. She was so nice. So she was one of the baronesses set up a birthright charity. And then she was invited on that, but I'd met her a couple of times before. Yeah, so that was the first ever major award that I got.
And that was presented by?
Who was it?
Not to worry.
It was the Women of the Year. It's the Women of the Year. It's an annual.
That's just fantastic.
Women of the Year. And
so how did you? So the MBE then? How did you?
That one was for acting, but the MBE I got for From Boyhood to Manhood Foundation. So when I was in America, of course, even though I was in the arts, there was violence. I'd never seen. People were dying. Kids were dying. I'd go into the schools and they'd tell me stories about having guns put to their head from the time they left the door to get into the bus. I had all the busing stories of the brightest kids being taken out of the area and shipped out to wealthy white areas. 3-4 hour drive, get to school, had no friends. Schools were given so much money because they had all these black kids, which they'd use on everybody else, of course. Then they'd have a long journey back. By the time they got back, it was dark. So and
that's the same thing every day.
Yeah, and that happened to a lot of people after the busing stuff. And so they didn't connect. They didn't connect with their families. They didn't connect with their communities because they were traveling, and then they were isolated in the schools. So very angry, real deep. These people were traumatized, and they traumatized them. When was it? I forgot when that law came in, and they bust all the wicked stuff. But there was a lot of gangs. AIDS had just sort of started to peter, but gangs, American gangs. And I remember I went up into Roxbury, and they showed me this tree, a massive tree. I haven't seen a tree like that here. And it was full of sneakers.
Full of what?
Sneakers.
Okay.
Trainers.
Yeah.
But what they used to do is they used to buy these children the most expensive sneakers, $300 a time, lot of money. And then that was part of joining a gang. Then they'd throw their sneakers up into the tree. And they were just being shot. They were literally being shot. People were being shot. They used
Sorry, what was the symbolism of throwing the sneakers in the tree? What was the purpose?
Oh, that you belong to the gang.
Oh, I see.
You belong to the gang. Yeah? And lots of children were traumatized. I had one student in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who was burnt top to toe. And when I met him, he was 13, I think. Beautiful voice. He had a tube. He had no fingers. He had no face, really. No ears.
Wow.
And he'd refused to join a gang. So the gang members put him in the garage, pour gasoline and set him alight.
No.
Oh, listen, I've worked in prisons and stuff. I could tell you stories. It'll take too long. But the experience, I then got into the community work there. And so I used Macbeth. I used all the violent Shakespeare plays because they're so epic. They're big enough for those children. The modern plays that just don't cut it, but those epic Shakespeare plays really hit the mark. And I remember I took them out in community, and I said, okay. And I started working in the schools, and they'd say to me, I know Macbeth, I know him. He's the local head of the gang, and this is and the three witches, and this. I was like, these are things they were experiencing. They were experiencing real trauma. They were designing their funerals at 11. This is what I want. This is the kind of coffin I want. Blah 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 blah. We hadn't experienced it in Britain yet. That started after I came back in '96, when they started excluding kids and stuff. Is when the whole into youth, real youth gun crime and violence. Half of it was because the Black community got into it, and I started seeing it before I left, which is one of the reasons I picked it up, because I lived in Campbell, and I started to watch how we changed. Maggie Thatcher had a lot to do with it, with this teenage stuff, pregnancy stuff, and when the girls got pregnant, they offered them a house, a flat.
All right, yes, I remember that.
Couldn't have the partner with you, that kind of rubbish. You could have other men, but you couldn't have the partner, the father of your child, rubbish. And that alienated families.
Okay.
And set the young single mother up and the children up for a distorted life. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, and I used to watch, and all of a sudden, from Black people being very nicely dressed when they went out, we wouldn't leave our house and we looked decent. People were starting to put plastic bags over the head for the curly perms and behaving bad, because they were traveling to go visit family members in America, in the Bronx and in the and coming back with this disgusting behavior.
Right.
Following it through the music, which is why I have a big thing about music. I hardly listen to music anymore. Pop music anyway. Because it's like the Pied Piper. If you want to take over kids' minds, do it through a pop person, music. Do it through music, because music is very logical, the highest form of mathematics, but it goes beyond your intellect and below your emotions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you get hooked. You know, in the army, you're in the forces, so you know before they send you out to war, they drill you, and they show you videos, and the music is on a particular beat. Yeah, you may not realize that, but it's on a particular beat. On the heartbeat, it's on Shakespeare's "I Am." the pentameter. I am, 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 I am. Then I show you vicious pictures, and I feed you and I feed you. And rap is the same.
Okay.
Okay.
That's very interesting. Very interesting.
Did a lot of research on it in America. Came back with a lot of research, but nobody wanted to hear it here. Oh God, I got
so was it on that basis of all of this why you got your MBE then?
Yeah, because I came back and I was coming back to do theatre. So I came back via Turkey, spent 10.5 years in Turkey and dealt with there was the Turkish-Kurdish war going on, so people being bombed left, right, and centre, and I was going all over, because you know me, I have to see everything. So I was going all over, seeing all my students where they lived in different parts of Turkey. And poor university, I'm sure they had kittens many times, because a bus in front, a coach in front of me would blow up, or a coach behind of me would blow up, and I always made it. I got back anyway.
Yeah.
So there was that. So I when I came back, it was to do theatre, but I went to Peckham because it had the energy of America.
Okay.
Peckham at that time had the same energy like America, and I brought some of my friends from America, and they said, yeah, they understand this. But so we were doing some research. I'd left my company here, so I already had it here. And they asked me if I'd do some research around the new library to find out, you know, whether there was a need for a library, and found out people didn't really read. But anyway, they got the library. And then I noticed that the kids were hanging around the street and weren't in school. So I'm asking them, what are you doing? You're 12, you're 13, you're 11. Why aren't you in school? Oh, we got kicked out. We got excluded. I'm on a temporary. I might be permanent. And they're hanging around the street. Is like, what? Because in America, it's not like that. I mean, you have police in school, you have security in school. I even knew in one school where somebody came in and taught a whole year in science. And every single one of them passed the test, but that teacher did not exist. And it caused mayhem in Massachusetts because they're security conscious. So they have the thing where they put the wand to see if you're carrying guns or whatever, because they don't come in and shooting everybody up and all that kind of stuff. That was to come in England. So I sort of had a head start. So when I saw that, I thought, oh, I know what's coming next. 1996. 1995, if you go back and look at the newspapers in England, you'll see that black boys did very well.
Okay.
Academically, really, really well. And there is a cartoon in, I don't know if it's a Mirror of the Sun, of a graduation ceremony with the boaters and everything, and they have the person at the lectern, and then they have the row of students, and they're going down in size with getting their degree, and then you have a monkey. And then you have some other academics in the audience below the stage, and they're saying, oh, the exams must be really easy because even a monkey can pass.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that I'm sure that the archive is still there. One of the professors in South London has a copy, Dr. Len, somebody. Yeah, and then the following year, you start having these exclusions. Yeah. And there was all kinds of different kinds of exclusions, like you're allowed in school, but if Ofsted come, you weren't allowed to come into school, so you didn't drop the thing. And when exam times came, you weren't allowed to take the exams or come into school. So there's all kinds of hidden stuff that was happening in the schools. So we did a needs analysis. So I said to the community, do you want me to come back and do theatre? So we did a big thing, you know, asked all the groups and everybody did. And they said, no, actually, the mothers in particular, because I went to the community groups, they said, no, we need help with the boys because they're hanging around and they were really frightened because they didn't know what was going to happen to them, their future and everything. So then I went back on the street and I said to the guys, what do you lot want? They said, well, we want something to do because we can't go in the shops because they follow us around like we're criminals. We can't hang on the street and we can't watch television all day because it's boring. So I said, okay, we'll set up this thing. So I got all my writers, actors, producers, musicians, everybody that I know. We set up at Sojourner Truth, which was a school that had turned into community. and we set up there, and we started off just as programs. And then we did work experience because they weren't going to get any work experience for the top end. And then we invited all the schools. So most of the schools, so we had about 150 kids for that. And we set them up in companies, gave them money and said, okay, we wanted to set up a newspaper group because we didn't like what was being said in the newspaper, music group, acting group, you name it. And then they would compete and then we present to the community. And then we carried on with this program for those who were excluded, and they were also invited as part of it. Lots of the community came in and helped, but a lot of the professional people that I knew came in and helped as well. So
right.
It's classy. Didn't get any funding, really, any help. I didn't get any help until I screamed at one of the thing and banged the phone down on them, and they gave me help. Then I teamed up with a guy called Wana Seshmi, and then we had the program then going full time because we did the needs analysis, and then we put it on at Glazier's Hall, and we had all kinds of people come. So the Trinity Centre, which is part of Cambridge University.
Okay. Yeah.
And he said to me, well, I've got a hall and it's got 2 classrooms and a kitchen if you want it. So we set up, and then we said to the young people, right, a lot of you don't want to go back to school because we gave them maths and English and,
Right.
So what is it that you want? They said, no, set up as a school. So we set up as a school in 2 or 3, so it became an independent school. And
wow.
We did everything. They hardly, apart from their actual academics, they were not in school for the rest of the day. We researched hotels, we did architecture, we did the boat, we did the transport, we went to council meetings, we went to conferences. Sometimes they take over the conferences. We did everything. We learned about politics. We went to every museum. We looked at wallpaper. We looked at the whole lot. This is your society. We looked at the police. We did everything. This is because my philosophy is this is the society that you live in.
Absolutely.
If you do not understand it,
you
can't find your place in it,
no.
And you are pushed by everybody else. That's number 1. Number 2, we used all the art acting skills to teach them to ask for what they want. Because I didn't know otherwise, but if I want something, I'll go and ask for it and I will get it. Because there's a certain authority that you have in your voice. So for the boys, and I learned that at the national thing, was that you have to root your voice. The upper classes, their voices are rooted in the gut.
Okay.
In the gut. So the voice comes from down here. So they have these wonderful voices. You don't have to use your face. You don't have to emote. The voice, Maggie Thatcher tried, but she opened the back of her throat. And she was like, oh my God, it's all in the back of the throat. Yeah. But actually she had a bad teacher. They should have rooted it in the gut. So for all Shakespearean acting, all the great acting, you have to root it in the gut because that's where your truth is. But it makes you very calm. And it's also the most powerful voice that you have. Then you have this huge range that goes with it, but it carries an authority. So when I was in America, I taught the Boston police, especially the women, to stop chasing criminals because you trace them in the alleys. And one time, one of the young policemen, he got gang raped by chasing them.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, no. So then I gave them Shakespeare. And then we rooted their voice and stand still and command them to stop chasing them. You don't have to chase people. Everybody had a mother. And when your mother said stop, you knew to stop.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what race you are. Yeah. It's that authority. Yeah. So I remember I did that. Anyway, so I then started teaching the boys how to root their voice because it stops, especially if they have deep voices, they have problems if they're big. Because their hierarchy system is if you have a deep voice, you're an older man. and you have the top dog, and then everybody fits in the line. So this poor young person comes, they're a big size and they've got this booming voice, and everybody attacks them and they don't understand why. I did a lot of work with the Asian community because the Asian men were pitching high. They pitch high to talk above the Asian women. And then I had a lot of time to get their, I earned some good money to get their voices and root their voices lower, because it's a cultural thing.
Wow.
That makes sense? Anyway, so I used all the acting skills, how to write, stop talking, stop just free flowing. You want something, write it down, learn it, root it, just like actors. Learn the power walk. I went in the prisons and taught them the power walk.
Wow.
You know, powerful people walk in a certain way. You in the armed forces, you're taught to be obedient. So you have to have your hands by your side tight. You have to have your hands behind your back tight. Whereas Prince Charles walks along, you know, Prince Charles will walk along, sorry, with his hand behind his back. You lot can't touch him because he's your lead, or the queen, or whatever, right? You lot have the weapons, but your hands are by your side. Does that make sense? But if you look at Charles, or you look at any in the royal family, or any powerful politician, their arms are away from their body. It's called the power thing. Your arms are away, your shoulders are up, slightly loose, not pushed back like you have to in the armed forces, not rigid, yeah, and you have to be balanced, and then you walk in a particular way with it. So I teach it to the boys. I taught it to the prisoners. Oh my God, I tell you, prisoners who you didn't know how big they were until we taught them the power word, and all of a sudden they couldn't get through the doors. And, the prison officers used to just stand there in amazement at how huge some of these men were, because they would do this and drop their heads and walk on the, you know, over.
Yes.
Like in walking on the tip of the, you know, the prison walk, you've seen it. Toes and by the time we finished them, they were open and they were loose and they had the power walk and they had the authority. Listen, I tell you, couldn't get through doors, some of them, massive.
Listen, I'm going to say this to you. Your experience, right?
It's multifaceted.
Oh my God. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I had a good life.
Well, and it's still going on. What is it you do now?
Now, at this moment, I'm retired, because then I went into education. I did call in that. So that's why I got it. I worked with Trident. So I was became a what you call it, an advisor to the police, to the Trident, because I knew a lot about it, and to the local community, the local police.
So sorry, Trident is about, just to explain. Sorry?
Trident was created for the Black community to look at violent crime, particularly gun crime.
Oh, yes.
You had people from the different communities, whatever. It was the best. It was the best, seriously. They were very serious about it, and they worked for our community. The police really did try, and we're fortunate in that the police still, the majority, do not want to have guns.
Okay. Yes.
That tells you the mentality. I know there's stuff going on, but that tells you where our police force is at. That a lot of people will leave if they make them carry guns, which is something that was floating around sometime.
Yes.
Policing is not about that. The crime in this gun crime and violent crime is tiny. The level of crime is tiny. It's tiny, it's minute. You get that in one little place in America. They don't.
Yeah. I understand that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So a lot of policing is actually about social work. Unfortunately, we've had some laws that have come in because of things that happened, like that guy who ran across the glass roof and fell and died, and then police are not to chase you anymore, and they're not supposed to save you if you fall in the river because they're not allowed to jump, all those kind of foolishness stuff. They spend a lot of time taking old people off the toilets, all the kind of stuff. A lot of the work is that, and the majority of the police force is civilians, because everybody forgets the different kinds of roles and jobs in the police force.
Mm. Wow. So,
And it's bigger than the army.
sorry?
It's bigger than the army.
Right. Oh, right. Yes, yes, of course, of course, of course. So let me ask you then, looking right across the spectrum of your life, what would you say was the most important, not important, but memorable, enjoyable experience out of all of that? I have to think long and hard. That's such a varietous life for me.
No, because I've really enjoyed all of it.
Okay.
I can't. I don't think I have a particular one that I would say that, because they were all different. And I have this habit of, I make lists of things that I want to do and want to achieve and want to experience, and I tick them off. I think one of a memorable one is when I ran for. I've always said I'm going to do everything. If I'm in England, I'm going to do everything.
Right. I
said, okay, right. I'm going to be an MP, so I'm going to create my own party. So,
what?
Seriously. So we set up this party. And then I paid my £500 and got all the stuff that you need to all the addresses, and of course they send out all your literature and everything. Got all my mates and Vidal and all of those, and we did our own campaign. It wasn't anything seriously. It wasn't. It's because the kids had said to me, the people that were working in the schools and everything, they didn't want to vote. I couldn't get them to vote. You have to vote. You have to, you know.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Vote, especially in the colleges, you have to vote, and they didn't want to vote. And I had to talk to the kids about whether they wanted to vote at 16, because that was something that was coming up. And they were like, no. But if you did it, I would vote. So I said, okay, I will do it this year. So we did it. And I remember we were walking around all the markets and everywhere, and we were in Peckham, and vote for me and all of this, knocking on people's doors. And we're going to make it. This African woman, she said to me, I said, you want to vote for me? No. She said, no. She said, you don't understand. What's his name? Oh, who was the Prime Minister at the time? Gordon Brown is my father.
Is that what she said?
Gordon Brown is my father. She said, I come here, I get free health, I get free education, I get money, I get hot water, I get this. He is my father. I'm not voting for anybody. He is my father. And some of the experiences on the doorsteps just had me in stitches. It was just so amazing. Then just hanging around, you know.
Oh, no.
There isn't any one point, because they were all glorious. I think my life is more like fairy stories now. And I look back and I think, oh, that was Cinderella. Oh, that was Goldilocks. Oh, that was whatever. You know, this setting up the school and everything was like Snow White. It was like, there I was. Didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I had all these little midget men that I had to look after. So I look back and I think, oh, it's really like fairy stories.
You've led such a busy, active life. Are you a parent?
No, I don't have.
Okay, because I just see that, you know, your life has just been so fitted up with so many different things and whatever, and it's just
because I tick them off. I say I want to do this. I said, if I've got to come to England, because I didn't want to come to England, because the year before I was supposed to come to England, I grabbed Vidal one night, took some bread and ran up in the mountains until the boat went.
You didn't want to come to England?
No! I didn't. I knew I was in paradise. What's the matter with you? I was not stupid.
That's amazing at that age.
I had a brilliant life. Why would I want to come here? For them to give me more white dollies to play with? No.
Okay, so like I say, I interview a lot of people, and there's a difference in terms of when I ask that question as to whether or not you wanted to come to join. And for me, basically, I loved my mother. She left when I was 7.
Ah, so you had the bonding. We didn't have the bonding.
Yes. I was a favorite, I have to say, as well. So when my mother left, constantly thought about my mother, constantly, right? So I couldn't wait to join her again, even though it was like 6 years later. I still had that link. So I understand where you're coming from when you say you wanted to stay there. For me, it was the opposite. but I understand it because you didn't have that link.
But you
Amazing.
didn't want to come to England. You wanted to come to your mother. That's completely different.
Oh yes, because I didn't know anything about England.
Exactly. So
My mother's come.
You can't say you want to.
No. I wanted to come to my mother.
Come to my mother.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Children don't know about places. They want to be with people. I didn't know these people. My grandmother was epic, and everybody around me was family. It's like, and I was free.
So why would you want to leave that?
I came to England to learn that I wasn't a human being, because I'm not considered a human being, and I am black, whatever that is. And I didn't know what they were talking about. That's what I learned.
It's amazing. So what is it you say you're doing now? You just I've been there.
I'm technically retired.
Technically.
I could have had him, because when my parents got sick, I came back. So and I ran FBMF from up here, leaving here at 4:30 in the morning and getting back 11 o'clock at night for about 5
What do you say? FBMF?
FBMF, from Boyhood to Manhood Foundation.
Okay.
So and then I also had a college, and then I let those rest, and then I went to help a couple of Asian private companies who were setting up, because I also wanted to know more. And then I stayed here, and then I worked with 2 other colleges to get them up and running. One is now huge.
Wow.
Huge, thousands of students, and taking over everywhere, and Leeds and Manchester.
Wow. Sorry, is there anything, the Boy to Manhood Foundation? Is that something that have you got sort of information on that?
Yeah, lots. We
love to have some of that.
Yeah, we used to have visitors. The government and the Home Office, they would send people to visit us. I remember. I'll tell you a good story. I went to America. Went to America when Obama was like starting to decide he wanted to be in it, because my thing with America was always there. And I'd heard about him because of the work that he'd been doing in where he lived, as working with the youth, because my friend was a Rhodes Scholar here, and we set up a program looking at getting computers out into parts of Africa that were war-torn, so that the kids would learn to use the computers. And if they got taken into slavery or whatever, if they found a computer, they could let people know and let us know. So I had to go out with her and go to the education department. Listen, they had computers in their basement. I swear to God, it went on for miles, because their technology, and so they change their computers all the time.
Right.
Well, they really into technology. So we used to do that. So I forgot the name of the place in it, but Obama was there. So I was hearing about his work and talking to people who were telling me about his work. So I came back to England and had to have a meeting, because there was a lot of gun crime this one particular time. And they called a meeting in the borough's police station, some youth and community leaders and so on, and the advisors. So we went in, and they said to me, how can we make a difference? How can we seriously make a difference? What can we do? Because we've been trying to. I said, get Obama. There's this guy in America called Obama, and he's running for president. He's black, and he's going to win.
Is that what you said?
And you need to call him, because he's seriously into youth, and let him. I said, he's tall, he's handsome, he's smart, he's diplomatic, he's everything. You need to get him into sessions with them. They laughed at me for about 10 minutes.
Really?
They the amount of times government and everybody has laughed at me. Listen, if I was thin-skinned, God bless my mother, if she hadn't taught us toughness and
yes,
I'd have died. They laughed. They thought I'm black. One policewoman came afterwards. She said, don't take any notice of them. She said, I'll keep the name. Of course, he became president.
Wow. Yeah, of course.
So it's things like that. I met like the Dalai Lama. I met so many people who were just, you
Wow.
click. People like attracts like.
Yes.
So, people who've been brought up in the church. I'm sorry, I have to keep coming back to it.
Don't be sorry. It's brilliant.
Because we learn that this is not it. So we're on a journey here. Yeah, we're on a journey. We're here for learning. We're here for trying. We're here for this is not home. And also, we're not for sale. Yeah, you learn that you are not for sale, and you are greater than this body, and you are longer lasting than this time capsule piece.
Yes.
We learn that by osmosis, more or less.
Yes.
So you don't have to be being in that kind of place with those kinds of people. You just know these things. They sort of get into your DNA. Maybe it's been passed on through slavery as well, which I think.
But the way you dissect this and things like that, it's there and it's within us.
Yeah. And
subconsciously there, and we act it out and play it throughout our life, but not really necessarily conscious of it, the way you've actually described it, which is amazing.
You see this melanin that we have, because skin is transparent, right?
Oh, yeah.
For 9 layers, it's transparent, and it's only the chemical called melanin that gives it. But it's in every part of your body. So if there's not enough in your eyes, you can't see. If there's not enough in your ears, you can't hear. If there's not enough in your brain, you're going to get Alzheimer's. If there's not enough in your kidney, it can't function.
Right.
It has a nucleus, which they found out a few years ago. It's linked to spirituality and calming yourself down and being at peace. We have the most in the world. Do you not think, if it affects all these visuals and physiology, that we don't see differently, hear differently? We have to, because we have an abundance.
Absolutely.
If you have a lack, you're sick. If you have a lack of vitamin D or vitamin B or whatever, you feel the side effects. So what happens when you have an abundance? It must be like having a heightened immune system. And if it's attached to spirituality, then we have a heightenedness in that space, in that area. Black people, I've traveled a lot. It doesn't matter where I go. I remember in Japan and in Korea, lots of Black people left over from the Americans in the Second World War. So you had a lot of mixed race.
Yes.
And some Black and Black people there. And I'd be going and I'd smile at them and say hi and everything. And they'd go, do you know them? No, I don't know them, but I do know their experience, and I've already connected.
Yes.
I know what he's thinking.
Yes.
I see Black people. I don't have to talk to you.
No.
I can nod and smile and whatever, and I'm giving you volumes. Yeah. We've still got that ability. Yeah. We can still do it. What's it called? Whatever it is, that you can communicate with each other.
Yeah.
We have it. Our spirituality is innate.
Yes.
It's absolutely innate. We cannot get away from spirit. We know it, we breathe it, we're everything. We're born artists, we're born to dance, sing, write poetry. In the European system, you're born as a worker, then you may become a professional, then you make, and the top that you can, scientist, the absolute peak of their perfection is poetry, prose, artist. The artist is the ultimate of right. And that's where we come in. You get any Black child, it will sing, dance, start talking, singing, and do poetry. It's innate. Go anywhere in the Black world and you see it. Art, painting, philosophy, story, dancing, music. That's where we start. It's nothing for us.
No, it's just automatic. Yeah.
We hear music differently, so our bodies move differently. Sometimes I go and I go when I used to go to discos and when I look at dance, and I think, what are you hearing? What on earth? Why is your body behaving like that to this music? What is going on? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. because
And
the
then
outcome doesn't match the meat.
And then every now and then, because they're in my DNA, it
Yeah.
comes out in me, and I think, what is that?
Ah.
So there's a bit of my whiteness coming out.
Listen, this
Oh,
has simply been amazing.
yeah,
You know,
good line.
oh my goodness. And I know there's so much more within you that we can share. But believe it or not, it's nearly 2 hours since we I don't normally do more than an hour.
I'm going to steal your idea, though. We are not forgotten.
The forgotten generation.
The forgotten generation.
Generations. Yeah.
I'm going to teeth it a bit. I'll be talking about you a lot, but I'm going to do the we are not forgotten. And I think I have to start getting those stories written up as plays, as fiction, as fairy stories. Fairy stories are so powerful. And as film. Not that we have to make them now, but we have to get ready. And the Caribbean islands should think very hard about becoming that kind of industry, because we don't have cotton. We do have the wealthiest, richest people coming into our countries all the time, who need to be entertained and educated.
Yes, yes.
But we also have some of the best scenery, best weather.
Oh my goodness.
All those kind of things.
Oh my goodness.
And so I think that's where, because eventually nobody will be working. COVID has shown us that. People will not be working with AI coming in, robots, etc.
Yes, absolutely.
Human beings are not going to have to do those kind of things.
I love it. I love where you're going with this.
More time to do this.
Yeah. And if we can collaborate on this, and linked and network.
Absolutely.
This is the way forward.
Yeah. Did you apply for funding for this?
The Forgotten Generations?
Yeah, no, it's the Windrush. There was a Windrush grant out. There's a Windrush grant out every year.
Right. I haven't as yet.
Make sure you do. I didn't do it this year because I found out about it too late. But it's from 5,000 to 50,000.
Okay.
For an event that can take a year, or it can be a one-off event. But your Forgotten Generations should be funded automatically. I think it's outrageous. It's only £500,000. But I think it's outrageous that they have abused and they've come back with this small amount of money.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Outrageous. But if it's there, people like you should go and get it, because your history. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I and it's been so fabulous talking to people about their life, and it's therapeutic.
Yes.
And
it's the area that we haven't had. They make sure that we don't get, which is what my sister does and her children. So she has the Patty Gift, which is Black psychotherapy, and you should really interview her. That's Sonia.
Yes, please.
Marie. You must.
Yes.
I'll encourage you. Yeah, but that's what we need. We have 400 odd years of therapy to get through. It's only our spirituality that can get us. We're awesome. We don't seek revenge.
Yes, we are awesome. We are
awesome. People don't get it. Only God forgives, and Black people forgive everything. We don't care. Let's just sit around the table and talk. We know what you did. Yeah.
You know what? This has been a blessing, absolute blessing, right? We have to catch up again, and talk and take this further forward. I absolutely love this. It's far better than I ever imagined that it would be. And after us coming down the stairs of the church, which I can't get out the image, and I think you're only about 11. I don't know, 11. That's all I can think of, right? And that's the image I've got in my mind all the time. To get to this now and to take us on such a journey, wow, this has been fantastic. I gotta say big thanks to you for this.
Could you imagine if we had known what we could have done and been given that much of a chance, what we would have achieved. Because what we have achieved, not knowing.
Oh my goodness.
Do you know research has been done on our generation, and where we are, the conclusion is that we are mentally ill. We are crazy.
Is that right?
Yes, the children who came up because we didn't have bondings with our parents. So
really?
we bond with our parents because we were left behind. And then we came to an alien place and there was still no bonding. So we are crazy.
Is that right?
Yes, yes. And thank God I'm crazy. Who the hell wants to be normal? Crazy is where it's at.
Ah, okay, Decima, this again is just absolutely superb, right? And thank you so much again. Are there any questions that you want to ask me? Just to close the whole thing down.
No, I'm just watching you. Don't you remember we met the last time at that mosque?
Yes.
And I was looking at you thinking, I know that guy, I know that. And then I asked you something and you said, what's your name? And I said, Decima. We messed up the whole place. No, no, I don't have any questions because I've watched you and I've seen what you achieved and all those medals you had and you still look magnificent. I was like, yeah. I was right. My crush did all right. Maybe I'll get a Korean drama out of it. My friend.
Right. All right. Fantastic. Yeah. So listen, thank you very much again. And we'll definitely stay in touch. And whatever that we can network and work together with, let's do that going forward. Yeah.
Cool.
Super. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.